In today's episode, we're going to test the A7V out, driving out to Connect Glacier, a little road trip, and enjoying some time out in the beautiful, still very cold, Alaskan sunshine winter. Let's go. One of the biggest improvements that Sony managed to fit in the A7V and what makes it a fantastic camera is the new sensor that they put in. Even though it's the same resolution at 33 megapixels, they were able to get better readout speeds, they were able to get more dynamic range, and better low light, which we'll talk about in just a little bit. But in video, you still get the same downsampled from 7K down to 4K video that looks fantastic, and it has about a stop more of dynamic range than the A7 IV did, and it is noticeable, especially in situations like this where there's just a massive amount of dynamic range from dark shadows to bright sunlit snow-covered mountains. There definitely is more dynamic range. But in every situation I tested this camera out in, the image quality is just a little bit better. Now, I don't know that it's better enough to really have to upgrade, unless you do things where you have a lot of side panning motion where you want better rolling shutter performance, because the rolling shutter performance on the A7V is considerably better than the A7 IV was, and that was one of the reasons I didn't stick with an A7 IV for years, was because the rolling shutter performance was just not good enough for what I do, especially when it comes to working with helicopters and stuff. But in video, like being able to do 4K, 4K 60 uncropped, and even up to 4K 120 now makes this camera a really useful camera. And honestly, I think probably one of the best cameras that Sony has on the market right now, even compared to something like the A1 or A1 Mark II, because you're getting so many features and it just has excellent image quality. Up to this point, I would say the A1 sensor or A1 Mark II sensor has been my favorite sensor Sony has ever made. I think it's probably being replaced by the A7V. And even when it comes to low light, there's been some pretty significant improvement on this sensor and in this camera, especially in video modes. So this is an ISO test. I'm currently at 800, the base ISO, or the low base ISO. And now we're going to go up by whole steps. There's 1600, there's 3200, there's 6400. This should be very noisy. There's 8000, the second base ISO. 10,000, 12,800, 16,000, 20,000, 25,600, 32,000, 40,000, 51,200, 64,000, 80,000, 102,400, which should be, by all intents and purposes, disgusting. Now, other than just testing low light out in an ice cave, I also went out and filmed the Aurora with it here in Alaska. And as you can see, even when I'm pushing up to 102,000 ISO, like the noise is, well, it's there. It obviously should be. That's insanely high ISO, but it is fine and it is fairly easy to deal with in post. But as soon as you get anything around 40 or even 30 to 40,000 ISO in that range, the noise is considerably cleaner and looks really great. And that comes from really that second base ISO at 8,000. But you can see all these clips of the Aurora, like, it looks fantastic. The camera did a great job. And the Aurora is extremely difficult to be able to just film outright. I've had trouble with the A1. The A7S III, FX3, that's pretty easy to do because it has a crazy high base ISO or second base ISO of 12,800. But the second base ISO at 8,000 on the A7V is really a sweet spot for you able to capture really fantastic, very low light footage. If you have any sort of ambient light around, you're really not going to have any issues. And that is pretty clear here from the Aurora. Another big improvement that Sony made on the A7V is in bringing in the AI autofocus system, but they combined it with the regular chip on this, so it gives you a lot of energy savings, which is noticeable on this camera. We'll talk about maybe more in just a little bit on battery life, but the AI autofocus is phenomenal. It locks to pretty much exactly what you want it to lock to every single time. I have not had an issue with it. in any situation I've tried it in, except for maybe in the incredibly low light situations of, trying to film the Aurora. Every camera struggles in autofocus in very, very low light, unless it has a dedicated astrophotography focus system like the OM1 Mark II, or I think Nikon has one now too. Other improvements that Sony's made is they've now included a AI-powered white balance tool, and I did notice that the white balance was doing much better. Sony still tends to lean a little blue on white balance, but it definitely was hitting white balance faster and better in most of the situations I tried in, which generally snow really throws cameras off because you have so much white around you. And this camera did really well overall. It had a very accurate white balance straight out of the camera in all these different situations I tried it in.
Figure this is a good spot to do a stabilization test. We're on a 16mm lens, standard stabilization right now, so that's just IBIS. But there is the option to do active. And active crops in just a little bit, like 5 to 10% or so. But it definitely gives you smoother footage. But we have one more level, which is dynamic active. Now, dynamic active, which is what you're seeing now, definitely crops in quite a bit. But it does give you much smoother footage. Especially when you're hiking around stuff like this, where, let's face it, nothing you put your feet on is level, smooth, or stable. And I'm not really even trying to hold it still or walk smoothly. Just like that.
But what about photos? Obviously, because we have that new improved 33 megapixel sensor, photos from this camera are fantastic. And 33 megapixels really does hit a sweet spot. As somebody who used to shoot with the A1, a 50 megapixel camera, which was fantastic, but 33 megapixels is a lot nicer to work with in post, and it saves you a fair amount on storage, even if you're shooting uncompressed RAW. A couple of other improvements they made were the shutter, the actual shutter, mechanical shutter, is now coming from the A7R5, so it's more durable and it should be longer lasting. It should give you, multiple hundreds of thousands of actuations, as opposed to I think 100 or 150,000 on the A7 III and A7 IV. So that's good news. But overall, this sensor gives you some just absolutely beautiful imagery, and 33 megapixels is great for being able to still be able to crop in and reframe if you want to in post with the photos, but still have plenty of detail and plenty of information to work with. And because now they've included up to 30 frames a second, now that's not in a mechanical shutter, it's an electronic shutter, but still 30 frames a second is insanely fast. Being able to take that many photos is great for wildlife or just like sports or anything like that. This camera really has hit a sweet spot, and couple that with the lower rolling shutter, you're going to get much better photos in general. In fact, I think this is kind of the best Sony camera that is out there on the market right now, even though I've had an issue with mine where I've had to send it off to repair, which we'll talk about more toward the end of the video. This camera is phenomenal. It does a fantastic job at taking photos. And I took it out and tested astrophotography and Aurora photography with it, doing both time lapses and just photos. And this camera performs exceptionally well if you pair it with a good lens like the 20mm 1.8. It takes beautiful astrophotography images. Like, you get lots of detail in the sky, lots of detail in the stars, lots of stars, period. It just does a fantastic job. And it does have better low light performance than the A7 IV did, as far as being able to where the dual ISO kind of sits in this camera. So you get some really excellent performance out of it, even in low light or in very low light. And because the bit depth is so good, you now get just absolutely fantastic images with beautiful gradients in the sky, especially if you're taking photos after sunset or during sunset or things like that, where you have a lot of gradients in the sky. You get some really incredible photos out of this camera. Another thing that I've loved about the A7V is the new Variangle flippy, tilty, rotating screen, where basically you can position the screen anywhere you need it. That is really handy, especially if you're doing video work, because obviously being able to put the screen out where you need to see it, if you're filming yourself, or if you're filming low angles or high angles, you can get the screen to be exactly where you need it for both video and photo work, and it works in vertical and horizontal, which is super nice. And of course, the menus also rotate with the camera, so you are not having to read your menus from a sideways 90-degree angle, which is really nice and super useful. And then we come to battery life. Now, I've been testing this in some extremely different, varied temperatures, from 35 below zero all the way to 15, 16 above zero Fahrenheit. And this camera has performed incredibly well. It does have shorter battery life. Every camera I work with pretty much has shorter battery life in those sorts of temperatures, especially when you get extremely cold. But the camera has performed really well and exactly the way it should perform. And I have noticed that this camera, the A7V, does have significantly better battery life than the A7 IV did, definitely than the A1 did, and even a little bit than my A7S III, which is pretty impressive. However, they've managed to get this to be more energy efficient. They've done a really good job at it. It all has to do with the processing power and how that all processes information now. They've done a fantastic job of expanding battery life while keeping the same battery. And something else that I haven't really been able to test because it's Alaska, it's the winter, and I just don't deal with overheating a lot, but apparently they have solved the overheating issues that the A7 IV had on the A7V. They've done a better job with heat dissipation, and how the camera dissipates heat apparently works much better now. I haven't been able to test that, but I haven't any issues with overheating either. Not that I would at 14 or 15 below zero. I don't, like, nothing should overheat at that point. But then that brings us to some of the issues the camera has. It still doesn't have a great EVF. The viewfinder is not super detailed. It's not as good as the A7S III or A7R5, or definitely than the A1. And I understand they will probably want to save some of those for their higher end cameras, but it would be nice if they had a better EVF in this. And while they did improve the screen somewhat, it's still not a great screen, especially if you're operating in bright light. It's not fantastic. It's better, but it's not amazing. If you take a look at Canon screens or Nikon screens, they are considerably better in the quality. And I do have a comparison of the R6 Mark III and the A7R5 or A7V coming on this channel, so subscribe if you want to see that. But the biggest issue for me has been that this camera is not writing to CF Express Type A card or SD cards properly, and that's what's caused me to have to send it in for repair. So now it's not even reading the card, and this is what I'm using here. Sony CF Express Type A, and my other one is that. And I've had trouble with both of them. I can't get them to read or write to any cards, and then it locks up every time. I have to pull the battery, reset the camera, I lose the clip. Now, in spite of the issues I've had with mine, I really hope that that's just a me issue, but it doesn't work well with CF Express Type A cards that are not Sony branded. And yes, it is on the latest firmware 1.0.1 or whatever that is that expanded the CF Express Type A compatibility. I still can't use Angelbird CF Express Type A cards in this. But other than that, this camera has been phenomenal from an image quality standpoint and from a user standpoint. All of the features, everything Sony's packed in this, it has been excellent. I really hope that I just got a bad camera with bad S card reader board or whatever it is whenever I get it back from repair, which I probably will have to update you on once I get it back. And there's also links in the description if you want to purchase this camera, because this really is an excellent camera if you're a Sony shooter and you already have Sony glass. This is the camera to beat right now. It's better than the A1. It's almost as good as the A1 Mark II in many, many respects. In some ways, it's even better than the A1 Mark II. And it's under $3,000, so it's half the price. So, yeah, it's an excellent camera. It's fantastic especially for people who are in hybrid work where you're shooting both video and photo. It has just really, really great image quality overall. And all of the other features just make it really great and really easy to use.
Next, you're going to watch this video right here. I'll see you over there. As always, if you have questions, ask me in the comments below or join my live stream, which happens most Wednesday nights at 4 p.m. Alaska time, 8 p.m. Eastern. We can have more of a conversation, can answer questions that maybe I didn't get to in this video. I'll see you again soon in the next one. Cheers.